Welcome to the REI Hacker Podcast, where we unlock the secrets of real estate success. Join us as we dive into the journeys of top investors, mentors, and industry experts. And now, let's hand it off to our host, Benson Juarez.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here on this edition of the REI Hacker Podcast. My next guest he's been around forever. I mean, if you don't know who Brent Daniels is, you've been living under a rock. But Brent has taken the time to be with us today. I'm so happy to have him as a guest. He's the founder of Talk to People, TTP, and the owner of Wholesaling Inc. Brent has built a multi-million-dollar real estate empire and has taught thousands of investors how to get started in the business and build a business and lifestyle that matches their dreams. Brent, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Excited. Let's do this thing, Benson.
Yeah,
Let's
man.
give some instruction. You know what I mean? Let's not just talk about stories and hypotheticals. Let's give some concrete, sink your teeth into it. Go out and get a deal after listening to this podcast. That's the point, right? I mean, why listen to podcasts? To be entertained? Like, there's so many more entertaining podcasts that people can listen to. Let's be honest. Let's give some instruction today so that people can go and win.
I appreciate that because, sometimes the backstory of someone is important so you can get a sense of where they're coming from and whether or not you should even listen to what they have to say, right? Because you could just be repeating something you read in a book that you read today, right? But you do have a storied past, and you went from being broke to, multi-million-dollar business in 5 years. And there was a reason for that, right? You applied some very specific principles and methods and strategies, and you've taught thousands of investors how to do it over the years. So I agree. Let's get into some of the meat of this. But some of your core philosophy is built around your brand. TTP, Talk to People. Tell us why is that so important? Why are you putting what you should do right in the name of your business?
Yeah, listen, if you boil down real estate investing, if you boil down finding the best opportunities to make fast profits and or walk into a property with a bunch of equity that you can keep in your portfolio, you only have to really focus on two things, Benson: conversations and offers. That's it. If you having enough conversations with property owners or the people that represent property owners, like real estate agents or attorneys or family members or whatever else, and you make enough offers, you cannot lose in this business. You cannot lose. And so I think it's really, really, really important to just let that be the foundation that you build everything off of. As long as you're talking to people, as long as you're having conversations, making offers, that solves all of your business problems, right? If you have enough leads, lead generation solves all your business problems. And so if you just keep that as the core element, you win. And you'll win for a long time. And it's not just winning 1 year or 2 years. You're winning for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. You can't get into the Hall of Fame by having one MVP season. You know what I mean? You have to go and do it over a long period of time. And I just think real estate is the most exciting business of all time. Real estate, once you build the skills of recognizing the potential in certain deals, once you build the skills of effectively communicating with people and negotiating with people, the sky is the limit when it comes to your active income. And then once you have enough active income, a surplus of active income, you can then focus on the wealth building and the passive income. And so I always believe it's really important, get rich first and then get wealthy. And so that's my bread and butter, Benson. That's my wheelhouse. That's my expertise of where, I live in, is teaching people how to feel confident, how to effectively open up conversations with property owners or with agents so that they can build a pipeline of opportunities and then close deals on a regular basis.
So you mentioned two words. You mentioned leads and you mentioned conversations, and you can't have conversations unless you've got leads, right? And aren't those really two different things? Like, there's lead generation so you can actually have those conversations, because I know people that have been doing this for a long time who never get to talk to anybody because they don't ever get to the point where they've got the lead. They don't have the proper follow-up. They don't have the CRM. They don't have the systems in place to methodically and systematically get to those conversations.
Yeah. Well, listen, there's only 3 ways to generate leads, right? The first way is to be really proactive. Go out there and earn it, right? Initiate the conversation. Go on the MLS, start talking to agents, start making offers, go reach out to agents that aren't even have a listing out there and build a relationship with them. Call property owners that you see they're behind on their taxes. They're going through a probate. They just inherited a property. The property is completely destroyed and run down. You could reach out to these property owners every single day. We have the tools. We have the means to be able to do that, right? So that's the first way, is be super proactive. Go out there and earn those conversations. The second way is through marketing. You can pay for people to call you. You can spend money sending direct mail, postcards, and letters to these property owners that are on specific lists that show some signs of motivation. You can use paper lead. You can literally buy leads of people that have filled out forms online that said, I want to sell my house. You could do pay per click, which is my expertise, which is, you get ranked in Google. People search. They have the intention to sell their house. They search for people that want to buy it, and then they fill out a form and you get those leads. So there's a lot of different ways: TV, radio, billboards, bandit signs. All those things are marketing, and they're fantastic, but you have to have a budget. They're more expensive than going out and earning it. It's way more expensive than just picking up the phone and calling people all day long and making offers. So you've got prospecting, which is going out and earn it. You've got marketing, and then you've got referrals. And referrals are fantastic. Referrals are something that we should all strive to get. We should all build an excellent reputation that people know, like, and trust us to buy their houses. And but that takes time. That takes time to build up your reputation. So most people, when they're getting started, they'll trade their efforts for budget. They'll trade their efforts because they don't have enough of a reputation. So it's either making offers online, reaching out to agents, or reaching out to property owners directly.
Right. And so
Yeah.
that's how
And by the way, a lead is somebody that's already made the decision they're going to sell their property. That is what a lead is. Everybody else is a prospect. Everything else, you turn a prospect into a lead when you have a conversation with them and they let you know that they have made the decision. At some point in the future, they're going to sign a document that is going to transfer the ownership of a property to somebody else.
Right. Because really, every property in America is a potential prospect. Right?
Sure.
Whether they're in a distress situation or they're just the person next door. Right. And so you could be talking to all of those
143 million properties that we can go after. Yeah.
So anybody out there who's saying, oh, I can't find any prospects, I can't find any leads, they're just not doing the work.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And listen, I understand. You feel like it should be easier. I've got a list. I went out there and I got a list of 200 of the ugliest houses that I could find out there in the streets. And I found their phone numbers. I found the mailing addresses. I've done everything I can. I'm calling these people up and nobody's answering, or they answer and they say they don't want to sell their house. Keep going. That's just the start. That's just the start. You have to talk to 200 strangers to get a deal, whether that's real estate agents or that's property owners. Just put it in your head. And that's you making those calls, not virtual assistants, not some call center in the middle of God knows where. That is you making those calls. If you want to get a virtual assistant and you want to have somebody else make those calls, you have to 10x the amount of conversations. You have to have 2,000 conversations per deal on average.
Wow.
But if it's just you, 200.
And these KPIs that you're talking about, you're not just pulling them out of your, what, like this is based off of what you've been teaching and what you've done in your own business over the last decade or two.
Yeah, thousands and thousands of people that I've coached, and just looking at the stats from all of the companies that I have relationships with. I know all these companies that build call centers. I know the people that have been making calls for years and years and years themselves. It all boils down to those two numbers: 200 conversations yourself. And this is when you're calling on motivated seller lists. So Benson, there's 143 million properties, residential real estate properties, right? Well, I guess properties are real estate, but 143 residential properties. And then 6 to 10% of those at all times, the U.S. Census tells us, there is some sort of distress going on. Some sort of distress, 6 to 10%, depending on where you're at in the country.
Interesting.
And so that's millions of opportunities. That's upwards to 14 million opportunities every single year for us to go out and get a great deal.
So let's be clear about these KPIs. 200 conversations to have one lead, or is that a closed deal?
That's a closed deal.
A closed
Now,
deal.
from that, you should talk to about 20 people. And of those 20 people, one of those should close.
So 200 conversations is 200 calls.
Sorry, 200 conversations. 20 of those people will say that they do want to sell their property. One of them will do business with you.
So there's another KPI tier above the 200 conversations, which is calls, which is people you leave voicemails for that never call you back, right?
Yeah, usually there's a 7 to 10% contact rate if you're using a dialer, right? An internet dialer where you plug in, you put in an Excel list of all of these addresses and phone numbers and owners' names. You press go, and you'll talk to 7 to 10% will pick up the phone. So if it's 200 conversations on the high end, that's 2,000 calls, 200 conversations, 20 leads, one deal.
The average person who's starting off in this business are hearing these numbers and they're thinking, I can't make 2,000 calls. What is a dialer? This is overwhelming. I can't do this. I've got a job. I've got a family. So what's the message to those people who want the lifestyle? They want to be rich. They know that real estate is the easiest path to building wealth. And they've seen you on YouTube and all the social media, and they're like, I like this. But then they hear these KPIs and they're like, oh my God. What do you tell those people?
Well, it depends on if they have a budget. It depends on, can you have people call you? Can you have people reach out to you? If you have a budget of $2,000 a month or more, then you can start doing inbound marketing, right? You can start doing the direct mail. You can start doing the paper leads. That's a great place to start, is right there at about $2,000 or more of a budget. If you're under that, you should really just be proactive. And if you just want 4 free deals this year, doing it part-time, 7 minutes a week, this is my suggestion that you do. You go on into Facebook. Okay. You go into whatever community pages, community groups there are in your area, whether it's real estate groups or just I love Denver groups, right? I love this certain area, whatever it is, community groups. Then you start friend requesting everybody in those groups, and you get your friend requests you get your friends up to 5,000 friends. All right. And then every single day you post to your stories, not to your actual posts, your stories that disappear every 24 hours. You post, I buy houses, send me your deals. That's all you got to do. Watch how many direct messages you get. It is bananas. And you will find 4 extra deals this year doing this. It'll take you 7 minutes a week. Once you build that up, once you get your friend requests up, it takes a minute a day to make a post. And it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. You can just say that. You don't have to have a picture. You can have a picture of your shoes or a wall or an ugly house or a tree or your dog or your own face. Doesn't matter. Just post every single day. I buy houses. Send me your deals. And you'll do 4 extra deals this year, guaranteed.
And if you do 4 extra deals and the average assignment fee is 10 to 15 grand,
15,000.
and you're making more than the average American is making doing a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah. And it takes you 7 minutes a week. But here's the thing, Benson. I have given this advice to everybody for the last year, probably, Luke, right? A year. And I would say 1 out of 100 does it. Isn't that crazy? I'm literally going, here's $60,000. Here it is. Just do this every single day. It takes no time. But you know what people's fear is? Well, people don't know that I'm a real estate investor. I'm just getting started. People are gonna think that I'm scamming people. It is bananas, the self-limiting thoughts and hallucinations people have with posting every single day.
Right. It's true. But some of that is realistic as well, right? Because they're looking at themselves and thinking, well, if I get a lead, I don't even know what I'm going to do with it. How do I analyze it? Is it really a deal? I don't know how to run my numbers. I'm not going to know what to say when I get on the phone, which are all like realistic sort of perceptions, right?
Yep.
But you're not going to learn those things unless you start doing it.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if you really want it, that's not going to stop you. If you have made the decision that you're going to be a badass real estate investor, that will not stop you. It won't. You'll run through a wall for it. You'll do anything for it. You're going to be in hustle season and you're going to be excited about it. Because the potential that just you could wake up to somebody sending you a direct message and you get a lead that turns into $15,000 within 30 or 45 or 60 days. If you're not excited about that, go do something else. Go do something else. Or this could add all of the unbelievable deals that you want to add to your rental portfolio, right? You can do the BRRRR strategy on these deals. Nobody else knows about these deals. These aren't on the market. I mean, it's phenomenal. You just have to be brave. You have to have the courage to be able to post every single day that I buy houses. And if you don't, somebody else will, and they're going to get those deals.
Right. And so the people that end up doing that are brave enough, do you find they fit into a certain kind of persona where they came from nothing, right? They burned the boats at the beach. Like, who are the people that finally have the wherewithal to just be like, I'm going all in. I don't care what it takes. I'm going to do it.
Well, I think they're the people that are in some community. They have some sort of tribe. They're connected with people that will help them when somebody says, hey, listen, do you want to buy this house? I think the first step is making the decision. You want to be a real estate entrepreneur. You want to be a real estate investor, real estate wholesaler, real estate flipper, whatever it is. You want to be in the business of real estate. That's the first decision. The second is, well, who's your tribe? You have to change your environment or nothing will change. You have to be around people that are excited and optimistic and have experience, or nothing will change. You'll always stay in education mode because it's safe. You'll always listen to the podcast. You always watch YouTube. You always go to the meetups, but you really won't get out there and mix it up and actually have conversations and make offers unless somebody is there cheerleading you on and saying, you can do this. Look at me. I had nothing and now I've got all of this. And it's because I just was brave enough to take massive, imperfect action and talk to people about their real estate. That's it. And so you got to find your environment. You got to really connect. And guys, this doesn't have to be something that you pay for mentorship. This can be a local RIA, Real Estate Investor Association. This could be a local meetup. This could be meeting with investor-friendly real estate agents that know what they're doing. This can be that is how you build your personal board of directors for this effort. And then you have a project. What's the project? Get your first deal. That's your project. And it's an exciting project because then you get proof of concept. Once you have proof of concept, then you can rinse and repeat. And then once you're getting the consistency, then you have one of the best days of all time. And that day is when you get to walk in and fire your boss. You get to fire your boss, whether that's an actual person or just a scenario or just a situation, or maybe it's a business that you're running now that's just draining you. You get to fire your boss, and now you're in this business full time, and then you build more momentum. You build more momentum. And then all of a sudden, the second best day happens. And you get to fire yourself from certain roles in the business. And then all of a sudden you're working on the business and not in the business. I know that's trite to say, but that's what everybody's goal is to really do. And, but you have to earn that right. And usually that takes 3 to 5 years of real consistency to get to the point where you can pull yourself out of the business.
So let's talk more about the talk to people approach, because a lot of people think that this is a sales position, right? You have to be able to sell people over the phone. And there's really expensive schools that teach people how to sell. Like big, $1 million corporations, $1 billion corporations send their best salespeople to Sanford and some of these kind of sales courses. How does someone learn how to sell if it's not in them already?
That's it. I mean, it takes time. It's a skill. It's a skill like anything else. You know what I mean? Go try to play polo on top of a horse. You know what I mean? You're going to be like, I don't know how to do this. You know what I mean? It's going to feel awkward at first, but it's reps, and it's understanding that every conversation that you have with a property owner really revolves around 4 main factors. And we call it the 4 pillars of pre-qualifying. And that is, what is the condition of their property? What is their timeline to sell that property? What's their motivation or what's their problem? And what is the price that they expect or that would make them happy? And so as long as you understand those 4 pillars, you can have a really good conversation. And the conversation, sales skills is really just asking really good questions and listening to the answers. You know what I mean? Sales skills is opening up a conversation by using your tonality, by actually being curious, by being engaged, by actively listening to what they're saying to you. And all of that can be taught. All of that can be taught. It's just whether or not you're willing to go through a lot of rejection and go through people not communicating with you the way that you had hoped because you just don't have the skills yet to be able to handle any different type of communication style. And so that's really all it is. But you can get really good at it. And a lot of people are. A lot of people are better at it than they think they are. There's always like that little sliver of genius that everybody has that they're comfortable having a conversation about something. This is just about real estate. So the more that you and the more that you focus on the condition, timeline, motivation, price, the more you're going to get really, really good at this. And it's a lot easier if they're reaching out to you, right, Benson? You don't have to have a lot of sales skills if a property is already listed, right? You don't have to have a lot of sales skills if somebody's reaching out to you and saying, hey, buy my house. You have to have a lot of sales skills if you're going to be super proactive, go direct to the property owner and make offers to them. But I will tell you, those are the biggest deals possible. When you go direct to the property owner before anybody knows about those deals, you have a conversation and you get that deal. Whoo, I'll tell you what. I have a student, Eugene, and he's out of Maryland. He just did a deal where it was a tax delinquent, right? They owed a lot of property taxes. And he did some digging, found out that the owner was deceased, never went through probate, didn't have a will, didn't do any of these things. So he got a private investigator to find all of the relatives of this person. And there was one relative left, essentially, that would inherit this property. He reached out to him, and it was like winning the lottery for this person. He's saying, hey, listen, do you understand that you have this property? I can help you get the ownership of it, but I want to be able to buy it from you if we can agree on the price. Agreed on the price, got the deal, is making $140,000 in this deal, flipping this deal, because he was able to go in, have a good conversation with this property owner that didn't even know that they would be the property owner. I mean, happens every single day.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of the sales skills become more important when you're trying to get the right price, because a lot of people can get properties under contract and get someone to sell them a house. But then if it's not at the right price, it's not a deal. And then you don't have a way of doing the disposition side, whether it's flip it or wholesale it or whatever. So how do you teach people to identify what a deal even is?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, a deal is a deal at any price, right? Any property is going to be a deal at the right price. So what I look at is it's a simple little equation that can help people out when they're just getting started. Obviously, as you get better, you're going to want to find a very good comparable inside the neighborhood that you can run your numbers off of. But if you're just getting started, I would take Zillow, the Zillow's estimate. I would take the Redfin estimate, and I would take the Realtor.com estimate. I would add them all up, divide by 3 to come up with an average of those 3 estimates. And then I would multiply that. If that estimate is above 250,000, I would give an offer of 50%. So let's say it's 400,000, I'd be at 200,000, right? If it's 350, I'm at 175. If it's at 250, I'm at 125. If it's $1 million, I'm at 500. Okay. If it's between 250,000 and 100,000, I would go at 35% of that. So if it's at 200,000, I'm at 70,000 for my offer. And if it's at 100,000 or less as the estimate, I would be at 10%. 10% of what that estimate is. And that's going to get you a really nice anchor price. It'll get you pretty close to where you need to be for that offer.
Because so many people get caught up in the condition of the home. I don't know what kind of condition it's in. I can't see the inside. And so that's another reason for them. Like, I don't know how to estimate construction costs. I don't know how to determine ARV. And actually, when you said you take 3 properties just from Zillow or wherever, is that really representative of after repair value, or is it just representative of market value?
No, that's the fixed up value. I mean, sometimes, it's not always perfect. Up. Yeah, the properties would have to be fixed up. Yeah.
So if you find
that's why you're offering 50, 35%, and 10% of that price.
Got it. So the goal would be not just any home off of those houses. You want to find ones that look like they were renovated based off the pictures and things like that.
Well, I'm not looking at any comps. The three numbers I'm looking at is just the Zestimate of the estimate of each Zillow, Redfin, and Realtor. So you Google any address, it's going to come up with an estimate that they have on those websites of what the fixed up value is. So I'm just using that.
I didn't know they looked at fixed up value. Okay, that makes sense. So it's a rule of thumb, right?
What do you think that was?
I think they're just averaging the average sale in the neighborhood.
Yeah,
And 95% of those aren't renovated. They're just normal homes.
sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're looking at the higher end. They're looking at what is the higher properties, and they're going to weight them heavier.
Are they? Okay.
Yep.
So then they figure out how to submit an offer and then present the offer. Okay, let's think about, all right, I've got this idea of what my offer should be. And now there's this negotiation, right? The person's like, you're crazy. I would never take 10%. Zillow says it's worth 100. You're going to give me 10 grand. You're crazy. Get the heck out of here.
Yeah.
What's next?
Well, I mean, you're not giving them an offer right off the bat. I got to do discovery. I got to see what is important to them. And really, when you do the discovery and you're talking about the condition, timeline, motivation, price, the other factor in selling the property is speed, convenience, and price. Speed, convenience, and price. And they only get to pick two. If they want speed and convenience, then they have to work on my price. Okay. And so that is the nuance there. I'm not going to make an offer to somebody that has a beautiful house. They've totally fixed it up, and their goal, that's the whole point in the discovery process. When you're asking about the condition, timeline, motivation, price, the discovery process is really uncovering what is your goal with this property? What is, if they are on Hell Island and they want to get to Heaven Island, right? What is the best bridge for them to cross? Sometimes the best bridge for them to cross is go list it with a real estate agent, or go list it for sale by owner, or go put $10,000 into it and re-rent it out or rent it out to a tenant. You know what I mean? But if they want a cash as is offer, if they want speed and convenience, that comes with inherent risk for the investor, which means that they have to be at a lower price. That is the trade-off. If they want speed and convenience, they got to work on our price.
Okay. So what if they're not so worried about speed and convenience? Then what's the alternative there? Because you can get 2 of 3, right?
Well, then they can either list their property with a real estate agent. They can keep their property in their portfolio. They can list it themselves for sale by owner, or you can try to do a novation, which is a whole different strategy. But, there is that. Or you can give them a creative finance offer if that works out, but it just depends.
That's true. Okay.
But I look for ugly houses that need significant investment, Benson. That's the best deals.
Right.
The best deals are the properties that are totally destroyed. They can't get conventional financing. They've been sitting empty for forever. They've had 1 million cigarettes smoked inside of them. They've got a whole exotic pet zoo living inside of this house. You know what I mean? This happens all the time.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, and this is important because if you're looking for the distressed properties, it could either be the house that needs some work or the person who needs some work, right? It could be one or the other, because you might have a nicer house that doesn't need as much work, but they're in just a bad situation, like that tax situation, right? And so normally, if you're finding those situations, the person is doing the deal, they're thinking about the cash, right? How much money I can make. But if someone's in a bad situation, there's this thing called empathy and really trying to solve people's problems. How do you balance the situation where someone is really just driven by money, and then that person being the next poster child for taking advantage of someone who's in a bad situation? Like, how do you balance it in your community and with your students to where, listen, yeah, make your money, but don't take advantage of people?
I don't know how to take advantage of. What does that mean? I think that's a hallucination, Benson.
It could be, but this is the
what how do you take advantage? Are you talking like somebody that's like low IQ and you're a higher IQ and you take advantage of them like being uneducated? Or I don't understand the question.
Yeah. Well, it's a good question. So we've all heard that there's agencies and there's government people out there who want to shut down the wholesale community. They don't want wholesaling because it's people taking advantage of people that are in bad situations.
That's not why they want to shut it down.
Okay, let's have that discussion.
Everybody that's pushing those forward are real estate agents.
Okay. So there's some lobbyists that are talking to Congress people and representatives and saying, listen, we want to get rid of wholesaling. And it's because wholesalers are taking advantage of these people in bad situations, but really there's an ulterior motive.
Yeah. Well, I think that wholesalers just there's no code of ethics, and I think that there's some bad actors, and I think people make the technology has allowed them to make a tremendous amount of offers on sight unseen properties, and it aggravates agents when they think that they've got a real deal going on, and then it cancels, or they think that they've got a real buyer, and it's not somebody that's a real buyer, it's a wholesaler, and so they feel tricked, they feel manipulated, and so. Yeah, I think that that's really the leading cause of it. If you look at the deals that are done, most of the deals are really destroyed properties that need significant investment. But I think you have to look at it case by case, Benson, and go, did somebody go in there and lie to this property owner? Was there fraudulent acts going on that caused this transaction to go through? Were people signing things that they didn't really understand that they were signing? That's gross. That's disgusting. That's crazy. But if you're talking about going in and saying, hey, listen, I won't tell you ever, maybe this is the answer to your question, Benson. A couple of different things. One is if you know that if people don't understand what they're reading and what they're filling out, and you're getting them to fill it out and you're closing that transaction, you're going to get caught. It's going to be a problem for you, and you're not going to last in this industry. That's just bad business practices. All right. So if somebody is older, if somebody has mental issues and they're not all there, you better have an attorney reviewing everything that they have. You better have somebody that is their support system reviewing everything that is going on. Plus, I'll tell you this, Benson, I don't know a single closing attorney or title company that would ever allow a transaction to happen with somebody that is clearly getting swindled and has no idea what's going on. Okay. Maybe there's some bad title companies out there. I don't know. I mean, obviously there are, but I've never worked with them. So I don't know how they sleep at night. Right. But when it comes to, hey, how much money should you make? How much is enough? How much is too much? I don't know if I buy into that. I think you go in, you have a conversation with the property owner, you see what is a win-win, and you never tell them what they should sell their house for. You can just tell them what you can buy it for. And I think that's how you keep things above board.
Right. So unless somebody is just not of their right mind, or they don't understand what they're signing, if those are all not true, right? If people are of right mind and they understand language and, English.
Yeah.
The price is the price. They agreed to it. And whatever their motivation is their motivation. It's nobody else's business.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. So I've been licensed since 2004. And I realized what wholesaling was in 2013. That's when I understood what an assignment was. So I go, okay, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to give these property owners that have kind of rundown properties two options. Okay. I'm going to give them an option on putting it on the market, listing it with me, what needs to happen. Right? They need to control their pets. They need to make some repairs to the property because it won't pass the appraisal inspection items that the appraiser is going to ask for, or the bank essentially is going to ask for. They have to have the property open and shown. It's going to be on the market. Everybody in the world is going to be able to see it. Here's the option. You're going to make $280,000 here. Okay. This cash as is offer where nobody's going to come to your house. You don't have to make any repairs. There's no inspections. There's no appraisals. There's nothing there. I can offer you $170,000. 10 out of 10 went with the lower option.
That's the convenience factor, right?
It's the speed and convenience.
Yep.
Yeah, they wanted the speed and convenience. So I think we hallucinate when we go, well, it's always about the price with people. And I will tell you, after being in 1,000 living rooms, it's not. It's really not. So what I'm trying to say is you can't go into these things and go, I know what is best for this person. You have to be able to pull that out of them and see if you can offer the solution to give that to them. And if it makes sense to you and it makes sense to them, now you have an agreement and boom, you're moving forward. If you're going in there and you're not disclosing in your purchase agreement that you are going to market the property, that you are going to assign the property or have the right to assign the property, then you're screwing around. You got to have it in your purchase agreement. You got to have it in a purchase agreement. The purchase agreement outlines what is happening in that transaction.
Right.
Yeah.
So your specialty for years has been wholesaling, right? You got Wholesaling Inc. And what we're talking about right now is just one side of the transaction. That's getting it under contract. It's the lead gen, having the conversation, locking it up. Now, if it's your property and you're going to flip it, well, now you just go into, go get your loan. You go through the escrow process. If you're going to keep it as a rental, you might be thinking about doing some repairs and, getting that thing ready to rent out. But the other option is wholesale, right? And so some people haven't prepared themselves for that next step, which is the disposition and finding an end buyer. What have you learned over the years in the importance of building a list of cash buyers before you even have a deal versus the deal's going to sell itself? And I just got to put it out there. And if it's a good deal, someone's going to buy it.
Yeah. How do you find those buyers?
Well, no, there's the two strategies. A deal will sell itself and then you just put it out there and someone's going to buy it. Or should people spend the time building a cash buyers list prior to going out and spending all the time getting deals under contract?
Got it. Yeah. Got it. I understand. I think you should have conversations with the investors in your marketplace and see what they're buying. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think that you should have. And this is part of building up your network, right? This is part of finding people that will help you evaluate and make sure it's a deal or not a deal, right? And so if they're the ones that go and, hey, listen, at this price, I would buy it. That really helps you to feel confident when you're making decisions, negotiating with that property owner.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Because earlier we were also talking about the number of landlords out there versus flippers, and landlords, they don't need as big of a discount as a flipper does. They might buy you something at 80, 90% of after repair value as long as it cash flows what they want. So, really something that you think isn't a deal might be a deal if you're having the right conversations with your buyers.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a hierarchy of price points that people are willing to go. You know what I mean? Somebody that, is going to buy that house and add a bunch of square footage and make their profits on a really popular area with the small house, and then they can expand the square footage, will pay more for something that somebody is just going to do like a cosmetic or little rehab on the property, and they need to build in enough meat on the bone for that deal. And so there's definitely a hierarchy, right? Selling to other wholesalers is the lowest. Selling to fix and flippers is next. Selling to rental portfolio buyers is next. Selling to people that are going to add square footage is next. Selling to people that are going to live in it is usually pretty, top of the heap when it comes to your potential buyers. So having a good mix of all of them is really important.
Yeah, I agree. Do you have any preference to sort of like the lead gen side of things when you talked about, going direct to seller or talking to agents? Like agents can bring you repeat deals, right, over and over again. And they also have a disposition network. So there's a lot of value in building relationships with agents. Do you teach one or the other, or do you lean on one or the other, or is just different tools in the toolbox?
Yeah, I think all of it. Yeah. The more, the merrier. You know what I mean? I think that, reaching out to, there's some phenomenal real estate agents that represent a lot of fix and flippers or a lot of people that are building their portfolio. So yeah, they're a great avenue to sell multiple deals because they have multiple investors that are looking to buy. Yeah. And oftentimes the agents that you reach out to are the flippers themselves.
Absolutely. I see that all the time. I'm looking at a deal that closed and I look at the brokerage and then you look at the public records and it's like the same name. Like, oh my God, it's the same company. And so you're taking out two birds with one stone there. So early on, you said that the way to solve one of the biggest challenges, right, in succeeding in this business is finding the right tribe, right? Surrounding yourself with other people that are going through the same things that you're going through. And you've built a really cool tribe called the Rhino Tribe.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about the Rhino Tribe.
Yeah. So in 2016, I was listening to, I was searching. It was like I had started podcasts in like 2015 with like Joe Rogan. And then I was like, well, I wonder what other podcasts there are about real estate investing. There was Flip Nerd, with Mike and Hambright, and he was phenomenal. Justin Colby had a Science of Flipping, and then there was one called Wholesaling Inc, and it was with Tom Kroll. And I started listening to it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is absolutely incredible. This is great. I got to join this group because I wanted to know Tom Kroll. I wanted to get to know who he is. And so I joined the coaching in 2016. And then I started to get really loud in the Facebook group. They were really heavy on direct mail, and I was cold calling. And I was saying, hey, listen, there's another avenue that I think you guys should at least explore. And that was making calls. And so I started teaching people how to get lists and get the phone numbers and what to say. And that turned into a coaching program under Wholesaling Inc., which was TTP. And then a couple years later, I had the opportunity to buy Wholesaling Inc. And I am now the proud owner of Wholesaling Inc. and the Rhino Tribe. And it is the most proactive group in real estate investing. I'm telling you, nobody does more deals, Benson. Nobody does more deals because we understand that it comes down to conversations and offers. It comes down to conversations and offers. It comes down to finding out what the goals are with that property owner and putting together a purchase agreement that's a win for us and a win for the property owner, and then a win for the buyers. Yeah. So it's awesome.
Yeah, you built a great community. I mean, I see people with the TTP t-shirts out all the time. Any convention you go to, someone's representing it. If you're not there, right?
Yeah, sure.
Speaking or, doing, being on stage. How can somebody who's thinking about getting in the business, or they're part of another tribe and they're looking for something new, how can they become part of what you're doing?
Yeah, I love it. Wholesalinginc.com. Check it out. Check out what it's all about. If it feels good in your gut, sign up for a call with our team. And if you're not ready for that, go to my YouTube channel, Brent Daniels on YouTube. Check that out. Check out the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. Get into it. Get immersed a little bit. See if it's like charges you up, if it gives you energy, or if you're like, this is nonsense. And that'll help you make your decision. And then jump on a call with us. We'd love to work with you for sure.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Brent, thank you for spending the time with us. You dropped so many good nuggets. We didn't have to talk about you at all. We didn't talk about your meal prep or your protein intake.
Yeah.
How much you bench, which is all good stuff. I love hearing the backstory.
Yeah.
But we had so much good, like, valuable content that people can implement, and some really good mindset stuff we talked about as well. And I think we really kind of broke down the process from A to Z on just generating a prospect to a lead, to getting a deal under contract, to the disposition if it's a wholesale or some other strategy. So I really appreciate you spending the time with us to walk us through that process.
Yeah, listen, I got licensed and I read Rich Dad Poor Dad in 2000 for a high school graduation gift. I got my license in 2004. I lost it all in 2009 and had to really reinvent myself. And it took a couple years to be able to do that. I was a real estate agent clawing out of the that horrible crash in 2008. And so from 2011 to 2000, essentially 16, I was a real estate agent and a hybrid wholesaler from 2013 to 16 until I went full time as a wholesaler and investor and flipper. And in that, you just realize, Benson, that a lot of what we do is just hallucinate what we think is best for property owners. We have to do a deep discovery process, and we have to see what they really want. You know what I mean? And in that, you understand how to solve people's problems, and not every person's problem is the same. And so it's an exciting business. It's a really exciting business. And you can do this without circling back, without taking advantage of people. You know what I mean? Without having to lie to them and have them do something that they don't understand that they're doing. If you disclose everything that you got going on, you work with really good title and escrow people, you realize that speed and convenience is really important to people. And that's how you get really good deals.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, anybody who's listening, I've known Brent for a while now, and I've had a chance to be on his team calls, his coaching calls. I've seen him speak in person, and I've seen a lot of the different groups that are out there, and he's telling the truth about his group. So if you are serious about, thinking about real estate investing and you want a good place that's safe, that has good content and a good leader like Brent, definitely check out the Rhino Tribe. They're one of the good ones.
Awesome. Thanks, Benson.
All right, man. Thank you so much for taking the time. Everybody, thank you for listening to this edition of the REI Hacker podcast. Keep an eye out for really amazing guests like Brent Daniels in the future, where we talk about real estate investing and entrepreneurship and business. And we'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Boom.